Okay, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be going through Nihilanth, specifically 150 is what I'm going to be talking about. The methods I developed and used for basically every single section in the second half of this song. I'm going to be explaining why and how I did it all, because it's not that simple. A lot of these sections become way more complex at 150, requiring tapping where you would normally just one hand, or the speed required sort of adds a bit of a question mark, such as solo 6, which is normally pretty simple, but at 150 becomes ridiculous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the song at 100% speed just so I can slow it down and explain the methods. Then I will demonstrate this stuff at 150. Of course, this is not really a tutorial, it's just something I'm going to do because I finally actually managed to do the whole song. So I would like to share these methods just if anybody's curious. If you're not, don't watch the video because you won't be interested. I mean, that goes without saying. Anyway, I think we'll get going. The first thing to say, I ended up changing my highway and note speed for this song actually. So let me show the overall game. I changed it a few times. Originally I would normally play, I think, at note speed 14 with the 100% highway. In fact, I never changed the highway length before this, but for this I settled on 17 note speed, which is, you know, basically hyperspeed 4 in pro face-off mode in GH3, but I extended the highway length to 120%. And of course, having the hyperspeed be so extreme, it really helps with mental blocks, because after playing the song so many times, I knew exactly what was coming at every single time. So it's not a case of, you know, I'm sight reading and I want to see what's coming up. I know what's coming up in every single instance. So that's the first thing. The second thing, the first half of the song. So there's nothing difficult in the first half of the song, at least up until maybe the 45% mark. So there's nothing to tell there. The only thing for me was my guitar sometimes overstrummed, so I'll be looking out for that. You can actually see one in the FC video where I caught it because I was playing late enough so that I can sort of see that the strum got et, or that it overstrummed, and sort of adjust my alteration because of that. But that's not anything specific to this song. The intro is very easy. The only thing that could maybe provide a question mark is this, because by the way, there are no blue notes at all until like 2 minutes into the song at 150. But yeah, they decided to put these chords on this horrible green, red, orange split, so I just slid instead of extending because this is pretty uncomfortable. Never missed it, you know. So that's all there is to say there. Okay, and the only other thing pre-solo is this strumming break. So I guess I'll break this down. Not that it really needs it. Obviously this stuff it's going to be very slow because I'm only doing it at 100. But I'm going to be going through it all twice. So this one, use the hammer-ons for it. You could strum through it because it ends on a hammer-on, but it was simple enough to just use the hammer-ons. All it is ends on a down, ends on a down, ends on an up, ends on an up. As simple as that. And then the final thing you have is this riff, which, I mean, I don't really need to say anything about this either, but to be specific, use 3 fingers there and a pinky when it's on orange, and just use 3 fingers for when there are no oranges. Simple as that. And then we get to the solo. So I'm just gonna go chronologically and explain each part of the solos individually. So solo 1A. Now solo 1 is basically 8. You can split it up into 8. So 1A through 1H. 1A. We've got this. Now, normal speed, you'd use the hammer-ons. However, at 150, strum through it. Starts off a bit quicker, and then it slows down there. Yeah, so those first three. Of course, it doesn't really make much sense to be strumming through at this speed, but yeah. Strum through, and then for those last three, release and just do a triple strum. And that should work majority of the time. And it did work with the majority of the time. No position shifts or anything. Just kind of awareness of how long these streaks are. There's one in the yellow-blue that's a bit shorter that you can notice. This one. But yeah, not the hardest part of the song. Missed it rarely. Over the whole grind, maybe like 5 or 6 times, which is not much considering the number of runs I had. This is one of the more self-explanatory parts. This is obvious. Did miss this maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire grind though, these triplets. Reasons unknown. I think maybe just not focusing. You do have to concentrate. I mean, this is the concentration, the song. Because you really don't want to sit through that intro more. You want to sit through that first half as few times as you possibly can. But yeah, those triplets, I mean. Okay. This strumming bit ends on an up and a single strum, followed by 9 strums. Pretty simple, even at 150. However, here you want to be, well, I say you. If I ever say you, I mean I did this. But yeah. At this point, shift into 3rd position because of this section here. Probably want to be using these fingers as opposed to this. So during the sustain. Okay, I think not really much more to say here. Never missed that in any run. One of the very few things I never missed ever. The same can almost be said about this random strumming part. I missed it once in the entire grind. It was it was clearly very, very kind, this section. All you gotta do is strum through it, and it works at 150. You don't have to strum that fast, strum fast enough so that you're not falling behind, but the specifics of where the double strums are don't matter at all. As long as you're getting these first 2 oranges off, then the rest of it basically just auto hits. So let's have a look. I'd be strumming faster than this for 150. So you see at the very end there where there actually are a few hammer-ons in a row, I would release for that. And make sure I come back for those last 4 strums. This avoids an overstrum at the end as well. One other quirk, because I want to prepare for these triplets afterwards, I'm going to be shifting back down into 2nd position during that hammer-on bit. It's a very subtle change, but if you watch, of course all these misses, it doesn't matter. I'm so used to playing this at 150 than 100% speed. I don't know how to play it. There, position shift. So basically that yellow that comes back to the 5 blues at the end, I'm not using my middle finger for that. It's not something I thought about, it's just natural. Okay. So after that we've got a reasonably rapid transition to what is tapping, basically. But the transition is, I do that and then I do actually strum this first one, I believe. There's another thing I didn't really think about. But yeah. It's actually not how I did it. Feels so weird to be tapping this at 100, but yeah. This is the method. It's pretty simple, it's only triplets. As soon as you find the order. So I'm only using my pinky for the very beginning and the very end. There's a bomb, but yeah. Like that. So just to completely break it down, tap this one, and this one. This is a double tap. Comes off pretty naturally at 150 actually. And then tap, fret, tap, fret. Bit like all gap. One tap and another tap to finish it off. Makes a hell of a lot more sense to tap this at 150 naturally. Strum. Very rarely missed those triplets. I actually missed those triplets probably maybe 3 times. Pretty much the same as these triplets actually. At 100% speed, you're gonna one-hand them, but 150, I tap them just to conserve energy. So there is a bit of a... Firstly, these triplets are actually at a bit of a weird speed, but if you just watch the beat lines, you're not gonna fall behind or go too fast or anything. But the very end of it is kind of awkward. It's not simple or that obvious to know when you're going to have to slide down to hit that strum, which I would elbow strum. Naturally, just playing the song loads of times in the section loads of times, I got a feel for it. I know it came down after a fret, but it's just simple one-handing. Just got to time the elbow strum really, just like that. And then, a very specific thing, I'm holding green during this yellow sustain. I don't have to, but this just prepares me for the next section, which is a moose section. So the thing is with moosing this next section, which I'll just show what it actually is here. Starting it off is difficult. I found I had to moose in a kind of a specific way, and it changed a bit throughout this whole mess. So what I would be doing, I would be tapping these first, basically 6 taps normally, and also starting on a fret, not a tap. And then I would go to quad spamming. And quad spamming is the only way I could really get this consistent. And that's all well and good for this first part here, but then you got to switch anchors and go back up for this like juggernaut kind of part. Is it Juggernaut or is it something else? Silver Surfer. So switch about there, just after you hit the last orange in this second part. Down and back up. Of course it's not hitting now because I'm going so slow. Right, and then after you hit that part, that's not it. Hit these oranges and then go zig spamming for this. I mean, I could have just hit a trill to be fair, but this felt pretty natural. It also prepares me for the quad spamming afterwards. But because this trill is pretty quick at 150, I don't really want to be hitting so many notes because it makes it likely to miss. So instead, just doing zig spamming here, and then go to quad spamming when we introduce the rest of the notes. And there's one more anchor switch at the end. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see what I'm getting at here. And that last anchor switch seemed more intimidating than it actually was. I really missed that. The section as a whole is one of the 2 behemoth parts of Solo 1. This is 1F. But this is the first truly difficult part of this song. Even though it is moosing, you would think, how could moosing be difficult? But it's the pace of it, and also just because it is fast and unconventional patterns in themselves. But at the end of the day, it is just moosing, so it's not like you really have to think that much. To play it cleanly at 150, I don't think so. If someone was, really good at that sort of thing, I wouldn't doubt it. The same with Solo 9. But with this being the first truly difficult part of the song, you don't want to really have any trouble with it. Otherwise you're doubling your nerves for the rest. And nerve management was a big problem with this. So moosing, and I think 99% of people would just moose it. But yeah, okay. So that's 1 F. Now we have 1G, which is the other bad part. It starts off with this trill, which is simple enough. All you gotta do is alt tap it. Ends on a fret, or you can do this however you want, really. Not an issue. Right. Now we have what was one of the most annoying things to figure out in the entire song. First thing I ever did was double strum the whole thing, which is what you do on Rock Band. Excuse me. Which is all well and good at 150. At 100, excuse me. That wasn't consistent, so then I just went to wild raking. So like, this is going to overstrum a lot, but I would really overdo the raking because Clone Hero just eats the extra strums normally. Just like that. That worked for a bit, but then it sort of wasn't consistent. Next thing, I had this mental block at the beginning where my fingers just wouldn't do the first, I don't know, 10 notes or so. Just a mental block. So then I developed that I had to purposefully think of these first, I guess, 7 notes. Only use 2 fingers for them, and that unlocked it. I can't demonstrate having a mental block because I don't have it anymore, but you know what I mean? Okay, so I was still breaking through the whole thing. I was working, but then eventually that stopped working. So back to the drawing board. Then I came up with the idea of starting this on an up rake instead of a down rake, because sometimes this first bit would overstrum these first 2 notes. And my guitar is a 3-2 with the 2 on the up strum. I say it's a 3-2, which it basically is. So starting on the up strum, it shouldn't overstrum. So then I was starting this on an up strum. Still wrecking through the whole thing, but then this part at the top is very fast at 150. So I thought, well, I'm gonna try to get into 3rd position for that, and that's what I was doing for a while. 3rd position for the whole thing, which is okay. But then this started being annoying again, and it was too many position changes in this first like moment. So then I went back to just keeping in 2nd position here, which worked okay, but then the ending had a tendency to overstrum because it's a lot slower. So then, finally, use these hammer-ons. And also, another part that's really awkward is this, in 2nd position. So I put this in 3rd position too. And the final method is up rake, keep in 2nd, go up to 3rd and use all of the hammer-ons for the 2nd half of it. And it works most of the time. Still missed very occasionally, but it went from being a bottleneck to not really being anything by the end. But yeah, this is the sort of transformation a given section went through in this song. This was one of the worst, and probably went through the most changes of any section. But there were others that were pretty bad too. Okay, that's 1G. Little easy part, and then we got this, which I never missed in a run, and another rare case of me not missing it ever. But it's pretty simple. Just keep in 2nd position, start off in 1st, and then just naturally change. Count it off 6 strums, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then the trill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, double strum and up. Pretty easy. Even at 150. Okay, and then as soon as you hit that sustain, prepare to tap. And this is a bit of an odd one. I mean, it's straightforward. You hit it as triplets. At speed, I'm doing zigs, really, not descending triplets, because 100% speed I can play it like this, and you do that in Rock Band. 150% speed, you can't count on being able to do that cleanly. At least I couldn't. So elbow, try and keep the speed. zigs to the end, and then a very interesting thing is I did not one-hand these last 3 notes because that felt very strange. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm tapping a basically blue-yellow chord and then doing a yellow-blue up on the fretting. So many inputs for these last 3 notes, but that meant I would never miss it. So just to show, yeah, hopefully you can see that. Also, I think I would usually end on the fretting hand like that. It actually ends on the tapping hand, these triplets. But once again, for comfort, I didn't think about it. I didn't count these triplets. I would just end like that and do that. So hopefully you can see what I'm on about here. Makes more sense at 150. All of this stuff will make more sense at 150, and I'm going to show that. In fact, I'll put a timestamp to that, just so in case you want to skip all this stuff. Okay, the last 30%, solos 2 through 9. First thing, the riff. Initially, I found this pretty annoying. Like a while ago, I'm talking when I was first doing the un-FC'd songs breakdown videos. But, you may not believe me, I never missed a riff once during this entire grind. And I think that is basically due to just being, well, they're all the same, and also just to playing it so many times that I wouldn't even dream of missing it. And you really can't dream of missing the riffs when you're going for a song like this. They are simple. You'd play it as you see it. Use all the hammer-ons. Do a down up to transition to the chords, and a double down back into the start. And also, yeah, just use these 2 fingers, don't use your middle finger for the yellow. And at this point I would be adjusting my guitar to prepare for solo 2. So yeah, I wasn't worried about missing the riff after the ending, or the riff ever pretty much. Even if it sometimes appeared as though it was falling behind, there was no risk. I never missed the riff, which meant I could be comfortable only thinking about the solos. And during all of these riffs, I was thinking about the next solo, preparing my mind about what I had to do. So, let's talk about the solos. Start off with solo 2. This is one where I had a pretty big mental block for a while at the beginning, but it eventually went. This one went through a few iterations. The first 2A, if we want to split it up into 2, is pretty simple. Just takes a bit of time to learn the tapping. I could one-hand it, but couldn't be doing that in a run because it's not reliable and it would tire me out for the rest of the song. It's a no-go. So, I'm going to slow it down from 100 just to fully show what the tapping is. So just watch. I'm not going to say exactly which notes I'm tapping, but for all intents and purposes I'm tapping the orange, blue, yellow triplets at the beginning here and just one-handing the rest. Occasional quad. I would always be thinking about where the quads were so that I didn't confuse my fingers. This was a thing that took a bit of time to master. Pretty simple to begin with, if fast. So what I'm going to do is just break it off here to say about this transition. So during that quad I'm bringing my hand down. Yep. Originally was just staying in second position and then doing exactly the same thing to close, get ready for that last strum. So it originally looked like this. Use the hammer-ons. It's only a 3 and a 1, so it's not too difficult to remember. Now, getting this triplet off after this strum is difficult at 150, and this was where my mental block was. I would just fumble it a lot of the time. Like, I wouldn't even get the orange. I don't know why. So, long story short, this eventually changed from being second position to third position. Now, third position, it does mean you have to do a triple position shift afterwards, and that feels uncomfortable, and there's no way around that. but it's better than having a 50-50 chance of just outright missing. At least my fingers are going to try to do the right thing. Another way around it was, instead of looking at this as a triplet and another triplet, I would think of it as a triplet and a quad, so I would ghost like an orange blue zig at the top, which if I can show you. And that's actually what I do at the very end of the song, where we have that same pattern. But I deemed that unnecessary for solo 2. Instead, just go up to third. And I wouldn't tap that note, I just tap that. So 4 triplets in a row there, which is pretty quick, but if you're warmed up, not the worst thing in the world. Okay, so now, up to speed. Well, up to 100% speed anyway. At one point I considered solo 2 the hardest section of the entire song, if you can believe it. Just because of that mental block. Without the mental block it's not so bad, but it sucks to miss solo 2 because you've just got past solo 1, a big massive behemoth, and you're missing solo 2. It's like, ugh, what a waste. But anyway, that's 2. I don't think there's anything else to say about that. Went between being more or less unmissable and pretty frustrating. Okay, 3. Missed 2 plenty of times on runs. 3 I missed a handful of times, maybe 4 or 5 times. This was more of a mental thing. How do you actually look at this strumming? It's very easy at 100. Because you can accent the ups and the downs. It's triplet strumming, so you're going to be alternating between up and down when these notes hit. The oranges I would have on the downs, and the blues I would have on the ups. And I would do this in third position just to make it easier. But at 150, to think about up, down at that rhythm, it's a killer, and you can very easily go too fast. Going too fast was the main reason I would miss this in a run. It didn't go through really any developments, but the thing that made me this basically unmissable was just focusing on accenting the oranges, and my fingers would do the rest. Literally just thinking in sets of 6. Down strum on the orange, down strum on the orange, and then it ends on an up at the end, but after that, that's fine. So I can't really demonstrate that at 100. But just know that that's how I did it. Okay, there isn't really anything to say about this part of 3. It's pretty fast. You got to think about it in the right way. The rest of 3, very simple. You could one-hand it. I didn't. I'm in third position, so I one-hand those, and then I go to alt tapping triplets. Which I actually missed this tap once in a run, which was pretty stupid. And pretty simple. And then the same triplet method I've been using for 2 and otherwise. Just tap the highest triplet and prepare for the last strum like that. Pretty simple. Some of the easiest fretting in the song. 3, not so bad. Not loads to say though. 4, this one's ugly at 150. 100% speed, you wouldn't think anything of it really. But at 150, you gotta get a bit creative. It's possible to one-hand it, but you're not gonna do it. Not consistently in runs anyway. Slow it down. I'm going to show you my method. One hand at the beginning. My fingers do something a bit weird at the beginning. I don't think about it. It's some sort of like 1.75 position maybe. Okay, so I'm going to tap these notes. First, one hand. And this had to be muscle memory basically, this first part. hopefully you can see which notes I'm tapping there. Get down for the double strum, tap, tap 1, double strum, bit of awkward one-handing, get ready to tap those 2 yellows. So this was one of the probably the most muscle memory solo of all of them. Completely clean. Maybe I would ghost a yellow coming out of that double yellow. These transitions aren't too fast, I gave myself plenty of leeway both sides. Okay, hopefully you get the idea there. This one missed, it went between, I think there was basically just one grind where I had some sort of mental block on 4 and I kept missing it. Always in different places as well, so most of the time this was a pretty generous solo, just because the method was so good. Just relied on me not fumbling the strums or the transitions. Yeah, and I would basically ghost a zig to finish it. I am right in saying that. Not the worst, but pretty technical. Okay. Next up is Solo 5. Now Solo 5 is infamous on Rock Band. Clone Hero, not so much, because we can ghost. But at 150 it does get pretty fast. This one went through a few iterations. I considered moosing it a few times, but at the end I was like, it's not consistent. And also I don't really want to moose this section, I don't have to. 5 was very difficult to hit in runs because of nerve management, basically. So the main problem I had is, this is my method for Solo 5 and it always has been, for Rock Band and otherwise. Let me just play it. So no anchoring at all and just fully alt-tapping the triplets. Missed the button there, and that's the sort of thing that would happen in runs. You have very little to... You have little stability when you're not anchoring anything, especially under pressure, so it's very easy to just miss a button. You don't really have any reference. You're just hoping your fingers move the correct distance. And I would get past this solo enough times just using this method, and also just alt-tapping the end while anchoring, goes without saying. But eventually I got this. Just anchoring green, it means I'm going to be using these 3 fingers for the triplets, for most of the triplets anyway, but having that anchor really helps stability. So let go of the sustain right away and get ready for it, make sure your finger's in the right place. And because my muscle memory was so strong anyway, I didn't have anything to learn here, it was just a case of getting used to this, and this is what I used in the FC. This was probably the final key for consistency that allowed me to FC this song, because it meant that I wasn't so nervous with 5 every time, and it wasn't the biggest deal getting past it. Because 5 150 just in practice is easy, but under pressure, it's a different beast. And I soon realised that. Let me see, I could get it down pretty down pat basically. So yeah, even tapping the lower ones as triplets, it's just very strong muscle memory, so that green helped with stability, but if I didn't have that muscle memory, that section would be a lot worse. Okay, don't really have anything else to say about 5 because it is just tapping. 6. The section that would probably stop most people considering the song is 6 at 150. 6 at 100 is easy. He says. And you see I'm using my 150 method, which wouldn't really work at 100. Some random strums in there, but at 150 you can imagine this gets a hell of a lot worse, especially 6A. 6B is awkward too. But 6A is really where the money is, and this would be where my pressure would be the highest, because you call this the bottleneck of the song, and as you can see from the FC video, I considered anything past this to be basically a choke. It started off... Actually, my ability to hit this section at all was what made me consider going for the song. But one of the main keys is being comfortable, like being able to do this without even thinking about it. And it's not a nice pattern. There are a number of ways you could approach this. You would think, strumming through it, I don't want to learn all these strums, so I'm just going to strum through it and hope for the best. Doesn't really work because of that last orange there, which is a strum. This section ended on a hammer-on, probably a different story, but it doesn't. So you can't do that. At least you can't trust that you won't overstrum the orange if you go for that. You may also think to go into third position, but you're not going to get this transition. Not easily. You're going to have to do, again, a bunch of position shifts, and that feels so awkward. So you gotta be in second position. For the longest time, I was strumming through, using the hammer-ons here, and then just strumming through the end and hoping for the best, but that didn't work. When strumming through it, you can't really focus on the fretting, you just gotta hope. So it just ended up being... Where am I? It ended up being that I just had to learn this as it was. And I play solo 6 exactly as it is, with really no goes to all the strums. It's the only way to get consistent. And I played it a lot. At 150, the worst thing was getting out of the trill and into this. So I try to break it down as the trills. Alright, then it's yellow blue, red yellow, green blue, red orange, yellow orange, but really that last yellow orange is no metal block there. But just sort of breaking it into those sets of 3 allowed my fingers to just do that automatically instead of thinking about it. You gotta be quick at 150, goes without saying. You gotta be really quick and you gotta be warmed up, which is what makes it the most physically demanding thing. So I use all the hammer-ons, downstrum everything, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you remember that. Then 5 strums. Now you might be wondering, why on earth are you just doing a single down strum for that double yellow? Well, it does work at 150 that it just sort of auto rakes, because naturally in a section like this, under pressure, you're going to be doing pretty vigorous. And look, there's your answer. In the menu, going up and down, it does a rake just doing a thumb. That also means that that last triple strum can overstrum sometimes. It's rare though. There you go. I managed to get it at 100, but at 150 it's a hell of a lot more consistent. In an ideal world, I would be letting go of the orange sustain immediately, so I don't mental block this afterwards, but that generally didn't happen. Pretty much on any run, I would be glancing and make sure that I actually had FC'd it, because you can get a sneaky overstrum in there pretty easily. If I had, I wouldn't be thinking about letting go. But 6B, starting it is not that easy at 150, if you can imagine this. It's a bit of a finger twister, and under pressure, I did miss this, I think twice on FCs. And then that sweep that goes into the trill. Okay. And then you got this ending bit, which is nowhere near as bad because it's on the reds, and you just stay in second position. You'd play it as you'd play it. It's just a case of knowing where the double strums are. I didn't count it off, but I think it's 4. Got to be very deliberate not to hit the fret after you've done those strums. So I would always play this very deliberately. The only time I ever missed this part on a run would be the very first time I got past 6er, just because of nerves. I ended up strumming those last two reds way too early, which is exactly what happens. So yeah, you've got to be accurate for 6, I'll say that much. You can fluke it, but best bet is to just play it 100,000 times until it feels comfortable on your fingers. Okay, 7 and 8. These are self-explanatory, but your pressure. You do not want to miss these solos in on FC. 7, I got not lucky with, but I never missed it. 8, I had a few misses in 8, and let me tell you, that's not fun. But 7 for now is pretty simple. One hand these first two so the transition isn't too quick, and then just standard tap. Use 3 fingers. Could use 1, but I use 3. And don't shift positions for this last one. If you're standard tapping, there's no need. It's only going to make that a bit more awkward. So I just stayed in first position for the whole time. And this is self-explanatory. I really don't have anything else to say about 7. Just don't donk it. 8. Even simple pattern probably. You've got a bit of a quick transition into it. So you're going to be tapping those, one-handing those first two and then dive bomb the blue. Otherwise it's just very straight alt tapping. Obviously if you watch the FC you'll have seen that at one point my blue was sticking, which made 8 basically impossible to be consistent. So that's a no-go. Without sticky buttons it's just don't be a muppet. I once again use 3 fingers. Could use 1 but less movement at 150. So really the thing is just if I got that transition off it should be fine. One thing to note is the very end, which I missed once in a run. I think it was pressure, but after that I started doing an extra blue because you'll notice it ends early. It's just a blue green to the sustain, which I would elbow strum by the way. But I instead just ghosted another red in there, just to make the pattern completely consistent. And actually that may have been a double one hand, but I didn't think about that either. Just like that, and then you got loads of time to get back down there. Okay, 9. This is a bit of a demoralizer for anybody going for the song, because it's right at the end and it appears to be possibly the worst solo. It isn't, I wouldn't say, but under nerves you gotta just go for it. You can't half-heart solo 9. So the very beginning, this part is slower than solo 1F, but you're gonna moose it. I mean, to play it accurately at 150, I don't think so. Because the only thing you're really going to be focusing on in 9 is the transition, and not donking afterwards. Also, let me show what I would do to get into it. Because where I would normally play these chords like this, just in second position, pretty simple switch. For 9, I would shift down to first to prepare for this trill, like that. Get the strum off and then start moosing, quad moosing again. So just to show that again. Over moose it, because the only thing that matters is the transition. So let me go back into 9 to show my methodology for the moosing this time. It's a bit like it is in solo 1F, but there's only one anchor shift. So moose normally, just anchor green for the beginning. Until about this point there, I'll pause. Round about here, I'm going to be shifting into up here, I believe, in a second position. In fact, I'm actually going to be going into third position. So it's something you feel as opposed to something you think about. But I'm gonna go up here, and this is in preparation to start the strumming because I had a mental block on a transition. If possible, don't do any fretting before you get your finger onto that strum bar to rake. And we're just gonna pretend the strum bar is a 2-2 and rake through this whole ending bit, which works pretty well. You can start the thing late, but you can't start it early. You're gonna kill yourself. So, as soon as we see that we've hit the moosing, so slow at 100. So I'll just put my marker here. So I'm going to be up here, and then shifting back into second on this thing here. And just play it as it is. It's worth noting that I'm actually going to be basically accenting the up strums here, which is not something I thought about either. I was just like raking basically for every 2 notes, make sure there's a rake there, but that may make it feel a little bit more awkward. But you stop raking basically when you get to that blue yellow trill, and just make sure you do that. Just like that. Okay, you have the grace of a sustain to prepare you for this strumming. Now, my guitar should be a 3-2. I was having some bad luck in runs where the raking wouldn't work. The rake would just stop working, and it would just, there's nothing I could do. You don't really want to be fluking the strumming at the end, which is something I had to try to do 4 out of 5 times. Luckily on the FC the rake just worked. Sometimes I would be in practice and it just wouldn't hit, and I wouldn't really know what to do. So I just counted on it going back to normal, and it did. But assuming that this is a perfect 3-2, there's a way to break this down so that you're not changing on any half strums, if you get what I mean. Starting on an up strum, that's 30 notes. Another up strum change there, 32 notes. So you're starting on a down here. And really you should be ending on an up. So this is going to be very difficult to demonstrate 100. Actually ending on a down, but I would always throw in an extra rake because it'll get ate by the hammer-ons anyway. To standard strum this after everything, it wasn't happening for me. I think this is at least 20 notes per second, so at 150. So not gonna happen. I did consider that when the rake wasn't working, but just there's no point. And then one of my least favourite things that had no clear solution was this transition out of this strumming into the fretting. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got this pattern, which is the same as solo 2 mental block, but I can't tap this. I also can't really go into third position because I'm having to anchor these chords here, so I just got to play it. So what I would do is I would do that extra orange, and that would help me not have a mental block. So as for the rest of that, you just sort of play it. And make sure you don't strum that note too hard, which I was very cautious not to do, because as I said earlier, a big down strum, you're getting a rake, and then don't donk it, which I didn't. But apparently I did that. Okay, I've talked for 50 minutes, now let's look at this at 150. A lot of this probably didn't make sense at 100, but now it will. So, first thing, we'll look at this strumming. This is how fast it is at 150. Pretty simple. Never had any issue with this. I think I missed it once, but I was looking away for some reason. You can see just how quickly this strumming starts and how fast you have to be at the beginning. You can ease off after the beginning. Make sure I get that 3 strums off. Use the hammer-ons. Position shift, strum through it. Repair. Tap method. Single strum. Now get ready. Elbow strum. Ready. Up break. And 3 frets to the end. Count 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And tap. Adjust. Up to 3rd. Think about 4. Pre-anchor in green here. Right. Adjust for 6 and get ready to be fast. And don't donk it. Very specific. Pressure's off. Dive bomb that transition in 8. Extra note. Don't forget the transition. And get that strum off. And don't donk it. And make sure you do that flam at the end, which is apparently a tick I have. But there you go, that's proof. It was only nerve management at the end, and these methods are so good. Just to go through some of them at 150 a bit more specifically, let's look at 1F and 1G. Shift, excuse me. Shift and shift again. Can't really speak while doing this. It may be kind of difficult to tell exactly that I'm doing something kind of specific here, but trust me, I am. And also, yeah, did I mention earlier, just make sure that I've hit all the moving before I get that orange strum off, because otherwise there's no point. Yeah, and don't definitely elbow the beginning. As far as 1G goes, just watch how quickly this is, but this did feel comfortable by the end. Wouldn't normally miss that actually. Let me show you all the other methods. Double strumming. That's so fast at the top. You just... no way. Using all the hammer-ons. Possible, but that's way too much to be doing. What else was it? No position shift at all, and just wild raking. You see I have this mental block here. Can't hit the yellow. You can really overrake it, but starting on the down also introduces a mental block here, which I forgot about, but yeah. See, my muscle memory is so good, I was supposed to be raking through that, but I didn't. What else did I say? Yeah, third position for the whole thing. It's not bad, that's one of the better alternatives, but that's the money right there. That really solves it. Solo 2, let me show you my mental block, which probably still exists. If I can hit the buttons. You see? I can't do that. And this was a serious problem, because for some reason I counted out being able to do this in third position pretty early on, so I'm glad I revisited it. I can get it eventually, but it's much more difficult. Solo 3, I'll try to see that you can sort of see what I'm talking about with the accenting. I'll show what it's like accenting ups and downs, and you'll see that that's going to screw it up. Much further behind. It's possible, obviously, but didn't like it. I had a habit of going too fast, which apparently I can't demonstrate right now. Yeah, something like that would happen. Just focus on the oranges. Just looking at nothing but the oranges. Like, that's more like what would happen. You don't talk during this. I can't express how easy that feels just looking at the oranges. And that's the thing. A lot of it was just thinking about it in a very specific way. And it's stupid because it's nothing really. I'm not fretting or strumming really any differently. I'm just thinking about it differently, and that unlocks it. It's very strange. For I don't think I have anything specific to show with 4. Just this is one I'm very deliberate with again. You're allowed to think during 4, it doesn't give you a mental block, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Five. You'll notice that I start anchoring green very early in 5, and that's not necessary, but just made sure that I didn't forget to anchor, basically. I suppose I should show what it's like if I don't anchor, which should be fine again. But in runs, just can't be stable. It's also very important to have your neck in the right position for this, because if it's too low down, you're not going to have a good time. So you tilt it up, game mode style, but not too far, because then you end up missing the buttons, you know what I mean? That was an interesting miss, yeah. Occasionally I would miss the second orange here. I don't really know why. That's just something I have to be very deliberate with. Make sure you tap that and the rest will follow. The good thing about that is that if I ever got lost I could just do quads, you know. But that didn't happen really. See? You can play it very uncleanly, but normally I'll be getting 5 to 7 goats. Which isn't bad. I suppose we should look at 6 a bit more. Raking through it. No chance. The ending would work, but that first part, nope. Not gonna happen. Third position. See, I know 6 so well now that I can hit it, but this is really much worse. Yeah, that just kills it. Trying to get that double strum in specifically too makes that a lot harder, as you'd expect. So, yeah, did I say already that hitting this blue was the mental block for a long time? My fingers would just freeze. And this is a section you can't really play that many times in a row. I'll say that too. See, I just end up missing it. But if I go back to solo 5 and hit it from there, I'll possibly hit it. No guarantees though. So really I'm thinking, hit that blue and the rest will follow. And I didn't there. I also try to do 6 as early as I possibly could. But if you're too early, that double strum might count the yellow hopo. Needless to say, I didn't like practicing 6 because I just knew that it would work better if I left it alone. And yeah. Even with a big enough strum, sometimes that yellow strum doesn't get off. 7 and 8, nothing to show there. So we'll have a look at 9 and end. Really overmoves it. Yeah, and don't start that on the down. I hope you can see just how deliberate I am with waiting and hesitating before starting that strumming. You can start it so late. Whereas if I just try and start it immediately, it can work, but not so much. And this is a case of where the rake's dropped, so I just sort of have to play it by ear, which I could get away with sometimes, but I didn't want to do that. Okay. I think I've shown you enough. There's nothing else I can think of in terms of specific methods or otherwise. So, if you watched it, I hope you learned something, some insight into this song, and just how much work it took to figure out. But that is going to be it. I don't want to play this song ever again. Which should be obvious. Okay then, I'll see you guys later.